It's time to get the inside scoop on the Utah Jazz from the play-by-play voice of the Jazz, David Locke.
Sweet revenge!
Presented by Murdoch Auto Group.
Ow!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us on the program. Lots going on a day that we did not expect to get anything from the breaking news and the KSL Sports NHL news desk. We have all sorts of movement on that front. Could we get another professional team here? Would it be hockey before baseball? It's insane to think about, but we don't want to count our chickens, as it were. Our program is always brought to you by G2G Bars, all natural ingredients, no preservatives. The G2G Bar is perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. They're right here in the fridge in the studio. They basically fuel JJ and I for the 3 hours that we're in here. Joining us on the program right now, he is David Locke, voice of the Utah Jazz. Locke, what's going on? What a fun game last night, man. These last two games have been awesome to see two of the best teams in the NBA come in and the Jazz take them down.
Yeah, they've been really, really good. Both games were highly entertaining. Jazz played really, really well. Give me an update, by the way. I haven't heard what's
going on in the
NHL. What happened
Kevin Weeks, who used to be a goaltender, he's an analyst for ESPN in the NHL. Just tweeted out a picture of downtown Salt Lake. Now it was an old picture of Salt Lake, but one of those beautiful ones with the mountains in the background downtown, and it's just eyeballs, just the big eyeballs, because that's how you tweet that there could be potential news. And then we got word that the ownership group is actually going to be meeting tomorrow, and that there's a land meeting also with that same ownership tonight, and it is not looking good according to reports. They may be forced to give the NHL the operating of the franchise while they are forced to sell it. That might be that's the direction.
The team here in Arizona.
The team in Arizona. Yes. The land deal that they apparently said that they had going possibly is just a land auction that might not actually go through. And even then, the league is like, "Hey, this has been a long time coming." They're in an NCAA hockey rink right now that holds about 5,000 people. The league is sick of them, and everybody who knows this Morello ownership group knows that they do not do a good job. Anyway, the deal was, it looks like that sooner rather than later could be an issue of an NHL team coming here. So that's big news. But, of course, we won't get too far ahead of it. But that's the update, at least, that we got today.
That was the interesting question that Ryan has, in his interviews, has been kind of willing to do both. But you feel an energy from him.
Yes. That
the preference might be to have an expansion team because of the success that the Golden Knights and the Kraken have had.
Right.
That an existing franchise doesn't seem to be as appealing. I don't know why. And then particularly if they're poorly run, you're probably playing from behind the eight ball a little bit. But if you also mean that's how you get a franchise, then that's how you get a franchise.
That's exactly right. Because they said last week, Gary Bettman, the commissioner, said last week at a press conference, he's like, yeah, expansion's nowhere in the near future.
Right.
They just went to 32.
If you want expansion, you're going to have to wait a while.
Yeah, so I think that was kind of the mention.
Well,
and
then that answers that question.
Right.
Yep.
So at the very least, it's very compelling stuff over the last couple of days.
It's interesting because I talked to somebody, I don't want to say who, and I don't know how good a source, who just thought the A's to Salt Lake was just a guarantee. Like that was they're in baseball, and their reaction was like, "Well, you'll have the A's here." I was like, "Well, will we?" And, yeah, of course. Look out! So we got some wild stuff going on.
Yeah, it could be pretty crazy. It's not a pipe dream now that we could have both MLB and NHL here in some form for 24-25.
Yeah, I mean, this is just way faster than I ever thought. I thought by 20 – I've said this a lot to people. I've been saying this for years, probably 2 years, that by 2034 we would have a second Olympics and three of the major sports teams.
We're well on our way for all those things.
Right, but the Olympics was the non-controversial comment. That seems to be still non-controversial, but I never thought that the other two could happen that fast.
Yeah, I mean, here we are. It's crazy. If it does happen quickly, I mean, obviously you have a very willing ownership group that could slide in and say, hey, we'll take this thing over. So there you go.
Right.
Locke, my goodness, let's talk about the next 24 hours and what that looks like, because obviously with the trade deadline coming up tomorrow, I think 5 Eastern is when everything ends. And so what is
I think 3. I thought 3 Eastern.
Yeah, 3
Eastern. Sorry,
Correct.
1 p.m. here. Do you, when these 24 hours are wild, I mean, the week leading up to it, in my mind, it makes last night's game even more impressive when you know that these guys are before games and maybe after games getting on their phones and seeing a bunch of stuff about themselves on social media.
Yeah, at halftime, probably. Like, going to be totally honest about it. I mean, I thought Will had some nice compliments to this group last night. Just kind of how they play for each other and together, and without agendas. And I think we've seen some guys press and some guys be tight, but I also think we've seen them do exactly that. They play as a collective group. They've been very willing to play, without fixed rotations. I think there's been an understanding that, like, okay, Lowry's our best player, but it's really not clear who our second best player is. And, and then from there, be willing to kind of adapt. And, I mean, the guy I thought maybe adapted the most last night was Kelly Olynyk, was just brilliant. And then he gets taken out of the game and doesn't finish, right? But I thought his 7, 8, 9 minute stretch there in the second half was about as good as he could be. So, these guys have collectively, bought into what they're doing and have created great entertainment. The last 2 nights have been about as far as you can have.
I spent first 10 minutes of our show today praising Chris Dunn. It's just a tremendous story, and it gets better almost every game the way he plays. I would love to get your perspective on Chris Dunn. Everyone knows the story by now. Things didn't work out as a lottery pick, had to go through the G League to get back in the league, and here he is. From your perspective, watching him every night, how impressed have you been with him, and where does he rank among stories that you've had with the Utah Jazz that have just really impressed you?
Yeah, he and I ended up in the gym together somewhere along the way, and we had a lengthy conversation. We were on bikes next to each other, and it was interesting to talk to him about it. Like, he had such a great approach to what happened to him. He openly admitted like lost the love for the game. Then and the politics of the game and all of that. I think a lot of guys from Chicago felt that way. And then when he goes to the G League, he gets rejuvenated by the guys there and their quest and their effort to try to bring it back. Those guys are all trying to make it. Right. So, I mean, I think he, kind of went to the G League probably a little sour on the league and the environment and experiences he'd had. And then when he actually gets there, he gets revitalized by those guys. The other thing he talked about is, when you're fifth pick in the NBA draft, there's suddenly an awful lot of people around you. And it's really hard to be able to figure out, like, who's with you for the right reasons and who's with you for the wrong reasons. But when you're in the G League, it's really easy to figure out who's still with you. Right? And then when you come back out of that on the backside, you have this love of the game. And then you also now know that, like, oh, anybody who's still in your camp's with you the whole time. Well, those are good. Those are your people. And the others have all now been exposed for who were just taking you, because they wanted to be on the ride with you, not because they were there for you. And so I think it's been that whole experience for Chris has been kind of a freedom of a burden, and then lets him play with kind of a chip on his shoulder. He was brilliant last night. He's been, we were really quite good. I think we're 17-8 since he started, something like that. 16-8, something like that. Since he was moved in the starting lineup, I think we're 19-10 since Colin in the starting lineup. So I mean, he's been the perfect addition to this basketball team. They needed toughness and grit and ball movement, and he's been that. And then his play late in the game on the offensive play when he drove and got it off to Walker was really that's about as good a basketball play as you can make. And then his defensive plays And the transition last night, the defensive transition that he led last night was terrific. And that's exactly what Will Hardy talked about in, 2 press conferences before, saying, we got to get better. We're just letting guys go in transition. We got to get back and defend in transition.
Locke, what's the when you look at kind of how each of these teams approach the trade deadline, and I think that we sort of look at it like it's this in the box, like they're looking for X, Y, and Z, but how much are GMs like totally flexible to listen to whatever and decide, what? I mean, and a guy like Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck, especially, who seem to be flexible with anything being a possibility out there. What's the approach to this team when you are 500? Things have gone really well, but they've also gone in weird directions too, of not really finding yourselves in as soon as you think they're doing well, they're not, and then they go back and forth. So how do you approach this, and how do Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck typically approach these days that you've seen over the last 2 years now that you've watched them both do it as a team?
So, So let's address one thing just so the whole interview is not super weird for everybody. I'm not allowed to comment on reports that are out there as a team employee.
We already told everybody. We were like, don't expect it. We were like, don't expect them to do it.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure people don't think we're just being super weird, because that would have been really weird. I think what's unique to the Jazz is by the time we hit 1 o'clock tomorrow, I would guess there'll be a multitude of deals, and my guess is that some of them will make us better immediately, and some are with an understanding for the long term. And that's because a deal that can make you better in the short term might actually also have, some lasting power to it, that there's players to be acquired that can make you better. They're a piece of a puzzle 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road. And so I think there is a real chance that we'll see, Jazz making many, 3 deals, and, 2 of them are on one side of the ledger and one of them's on another. And you're like, well, what were they doing? Well, they're just evaluating each circumstance in the way that's most beneficial. I do think the Jazz eyes are toward 2028, not 2020. I've said this before, not April 15th of 2024. Like, I don't think the goal in any meetings right now are how are we going to make ourselves better on April 15th of 2024 for this playoff run. I think the vision is how are we going to make ourselves better, hopefully in June of 2028. What are the foundational building blocks for the future?
You're well plugged into the league. You hear a lot of things. Would you be surprised if there isn't any major deals? You mentioned the Jazz might be involved in some things, but it doesn't feel like there's anything big out there right now. Do you feel that's the case?
An all-NBA player in pass got moved.
Exactly.
Right? And OG Anunoby already got moved, and Terry Rozier already got moved. So those are 3 and there were players, Emmanuel quickly and players going the other way. So those are 3 pretty big moves that have already happened. I do think, Masai Ujiri, the GM in Toronto, kind of read the tea leaves that he thought the time to go was early.
Yeah.
And that changed this deadline a little bit. And I think he might have been right. Last year the trade deadline was crazy. At the very last minute, there were just a bunch of players moved, like for 1 million second-round picks. Like, the currency became second-round picks. There actually have not been many. Like, the Jazz got a first-round pick in last year's trade deadline. I don't think many other people did. Like, if you go back through the transactions last year, when the Jazz made that move, they ended up with a first-round pick. My memory is there weren't. The other one was the Spurs kind of surprisingly got one for Jakob Poeltl. But otherwise, my memory is like Sadiq Bey went for like 4 or 5 second-round picks, and then Gary Payton got moved for a bunch of second-round picks, and James Wiseman got moved for a bunch of second-round picks. So that was kind of the currency that was out there, and that seems to be maybe the currency that's going on right now, too. If the Minnesota reports are true that Monty Morris got traded, they did move 2 young players but they had to also match salary. But there was second-round picks seem to be the currency right now. If you can get first, I think you have to jump at it right now. They're just hard to get.
Yeah, we shared a stat yesterday that I believe 11 teams in the NBA control 75% of of future draft picks. Is that really having an impact on the fact it's hard to make
really
deals
true?
because teams don't have picks to make the deals?
Right. That's so 11 teams hold 75% of the first round picks, or is all the picks?
I think maybe of all the draft picks, all the upcoming. It's not even just first round. I think it's maybe it was first round. We read it yesterday. It sounded very legit yesterday. All right, so asking for all these details right now.
I'm sorry. My bad.
No.
My
We
bad.
were
short attention span theater.
No, but it was one of those things that was brought up, and I think that we see what the Jazz have in terms of capital. And speaking of capital, we talk about the draft capital all the time. And, Sam Presti from the Thunder is one of those guys that, first of all, he was like, I don't know. What was that last?
Sorry, I have an up. It's tradable first round picks.
Tradable first round
Tradable
picks.
first round picks.
75%. 75% owned by 11% of the team. Sam Presti was there.
So it's interesting. Let me make sure that makes sense to people, because the problem is you can't trade a first-round pick 2 years in a row.
Yes, right.
So if you've already given up some of your picks, then you're really limited
out of it.
You're able to.
Right.
Yeah. So that's an really, really interesting stat, and it's kind of the compounding impact of teams giving up first-round draft picks is that then they can't move futures.
So Sam Presti, who's the general manager of the and vice president of the Thunder, that's a guy that one has been doing this for a long time. But it's also a little bit of one of those guys, too, that I looked at and I go, man, the Thunder have figured out a way to somehow be a contender and then get, years ago, and then get back to that spot again. How smart is he as a GM? Because it seems like the Jazz and the Thunder, people talk about those two as kind of being teams that, while they aren't on the same exact path, obviously the Thunder are a lot more ahead of the schedule. It certainly is looked at like, man, he's made some crazy decisions, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of the draft picks that are in their back pocket.
Well, I mean, so first you got Shea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for Paul George, you got a player better than he got the better player in the deal, and he got a bunch of picks. So and he had, the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard was holding the Clippers hostage, saying he wouldn't come to the Clippers unless they got Paul George, and Sam Presti fleeced L.A. because he had all the leverage in the world, and he got Shea, who at the time wasn't better, but is now a better player than Paul George. So that's the first thing. Like, they have an all-NBA top 10 player. That's you have to have that. And so they got that. And then, he has all these picks. The truth of the matter is he's had, a lot of misses but he hit twice in a big way. He hit on Chet Holmgren with the number 2 pick, who's really, really good. And he hit on Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara with the 14th or 16th pick, whatever that was. And he's really, really good. And those were the same draft. And that's, that was a wildly successful draft. Now, he also drafted Pokusevski, and he drafted Trey Mann, and he drafted Josh Giddey.
Right.
And we'll see if Josh Giddey turns out as a piece of their puzzle. I don't think he will be. He would be a wild card name that could move tomorrow. I don't think they'll do that yet, but at some point they need to. So, I mean, what you just need to have, the point of this is that you have to have a lot of different shots at the apple or whatever, because the drafting's really hard. And they had one great draft. I mean, Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams are just terrific. But the key to the whole thing is they got Shea. And then, and they drafted well. For ours, we got Lowry, but he's a top 25 player, not a top 10 player.
Big difference, right? I mean, like they're awesome, but man, and the reality is that
Shea might be a top 5 player,
right?
Yeah,
he might. I mean,
he's an MVP candidate this year.
Sure.
I don't know how you can argue that.
Yeah. Locke, the rest of this week is kind of crazy, right? I mean, there's a lot that's going to be going on, but we're keeping you in mind. We're also keeping the Jazz in mind, and we're also keeping our ears pressed firmly to the ground to find out everything that's going to happen before or right around that trade deadline. So we're looking forward to it, man. Thanks for coming on as usual. We appreciate it.
I mean, on the court, let's just make sure we on the court realize what a treat we're getting, right? We just got Giannis and the Thunder.
Yep.
And now we get to watch Durant, Beal, Booker, and then we get Steph, LeBron, and Steph next week.
Yep.
Pretty crazy.
It's pretty incredible. So what a treat. What an absolute treat. By the way, I just want to point out that I had to step inside for this interview. I thought I was doing this interview because I thought I was going to go on a walk and get away from everyone and be outside. It's too cold in Arizona right now. I had to step inside.
Look at you.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little you look at February, Arizona. You're like,
yeah.
I'm going to ski powder in the morning. I'm going to ski powder in the morning. I'm going to sit by the pool in the afternoon. But no such luck.
Bummer.
Locke, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you again next week.
Okay, see you guys.
There you go.
Thanks, Locke.
Hey, Jeremy, send Locke a hospitality basket. Sounds like things are rough down there in Phoenix.
It's going to be a tough 24 hours for that team.
Yeah.
You should check out the Coyote stuff. What's going on?
Oh yeah. He could go out there and start hitting the ground, start asking some questions. Yeah. That's the thing is when you're on the road, it's weird because you'll get shipped out. So here's how it works. You'll get shipped to your new team while you're still on the road, and you'll meet up with them, and then somebody will pack your things and they'll send it out to you.
The Jazz are going to have a get your stuff off the bus moment tomorrow, maybe. I mean, they already did today, essentially.
Who was it? Who was it that we were watching? Remember, we were on like bag watch. Somebody brought a bag into the arena, and they walk in. You remember that? And they were like, it was 5 hours before game. It was during shoot around.
Oh, that's right.
It was like 2 or 3 hours before. It was right around the trade deadline, and they went in. They had a duffel bag. They hugged their buddies and walked out. That was it. Maybe it was Rubio. Maybe it was Ricky Rubio.
Just because these guys make a lot of money doesn't mean they're not human beings with feelings and lives and families and stuff. Like we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. Like, let's treat these people with some respect and understand this is tough. It's hard for these people. It's hard for David Locke, who's built relationships. He can't talk about the Simone Fontecchio trade. I'm sure he would have, if once he's done, he's gonna have a lot of great things to say about Simone Fontecchio once the trade is official, and he could talk about it. But he had to do the whole interview knowing what's happening, and he did share some other information that I thought was interesting.
That might be. What did he say? I wouldn't be surprised
if
if
there 2 or 3 of these.
Yeah,
things.
Wouldn't be surprised if there are 2 or 3 deals.
And this is not going to surprise any of us if it happens tomorrow. But yeah, this is tough.
I hate the idea of 2028 being the goal versus like 2026. Like that's.
I think that I appreciate Locke being honest about it because, and we talked about this. Dude. I think in the last week, I told you that. This is not going to happen overnight. This is a process, to borrow something from the old Sixers, and nobody wants to hear that word. Trust the process, especially. That phrase is not something that's fan-friendly. Nobody wants to wait. We all want it now.
Yes.
But the truth is, if this team's not going to be contending overnight. There's not a deal out there. I joked the other day, I think I brought this up on the show, as we were sitting around after our show on Sunday night, KSL Sports Live crew down on the TV side of things, and the question was, is there a big name the Jazz could even get at the trade deadline with the assets they have? And I went through and the guys were asking us, I started from the bottom as far as standings are right now, and I went through the entire league and came up with nothing. Nothing realistic.
Right.
The only name that I thought that would make any sense of a team that might think about moving a guy was Trae Young. We've already talked about that. It's just not a good fit.
No, please don't.
Like, why don't they go out and get Luke at the trade deadline? Well, because the Dallas Mavericks have no interest in trading one of the top 5 basketball players on the planet, no matter how many assets you have. So you got to have opportunity, and the opportunity isn't there right now. So there's not any big deals that are going to happen tomorrow. Like Slock said, the biggest happened already.
You think so? All right.
Pascal Siakam to the Pacers. That's your quote unquote trade deadline. And
blockbuster.
the
big deals happen in the summer. I mean that's the reality.
And sometimes late in the summer.
Right.
Damian Lillard got traded
September
to the Bucks. What, early, 2 days before camp started?
Yeah, it was like early September.
Yeah. It happened during football season.
Crazy.
And it didn't get as much buzz because it happened in football season.
Yeah, that's the way you want to do it.
I mean,
Jazz, by the way,
in
are
Milwaukee. They're thinking about the Packers. They don't care about the Bucks.
Jazz, by the way, are 2 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors for that 10th spot play-in.
Yes.
Warriors coming to town twice for a double dip next week, on the 12th and then on the 15th again. So what okay, so they'll do. Yeah, so tomorrow they're in Phoenix. I mean, obviously they're there already, but tomorrow they play the Suns. Gosh darn it just went away from me here. So yeah, they'll play the Suns. And then they've got the Warriors at home before the All-Star break.
Yes.
So 4 more games left to the All-Star break. There you go. We'll take a break. We'll come back. That's a bummer. I really liked Simone Fontecchio, but you know what he did? He became a way more valuable. Think about all the he was the most valuable piece in that trade that went down today.
Yeah, no question.
After you didn't even know if that guy was going to be on the roster.
While it's tough that he's leaving here where he found a place, he's in a position now as a restricted free agent in the offseason. Now that he's proven that he's not only a rotational player, but he can be a starter in this league.
Yeah.
He's going to get not only stick around in the league, but he's going to get paid pretty well.
Okay, we'll take a break. We've got tons more to go. We've got our NFL Blitz. We've got our best and worst of the show. So stay right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Lots going on, of course. Our show is fueled by G2G bars and rumors. JJ?
Yes.
NHL rumors, NBA trade rumors.
Yeah, this is a sports talk radio show. That's what we do. And we try to dig through it and find where the truth is.
Okay.
You know what? There's a lot of truth in what's going on.
Am I crazy to think, am I the only person that thinks that maybe Taylor Swift shows up on the stage at the Super Bowl halftime for like 5 seconds?
No chance.
Oh, you guys are dismissing it so quickly.
What are they paying her? What are they going to pay her to do
The
that?
Super Bowl never pays anybody
She's
to
not
perform.
going to perform or step on that stage. She will congratulate Travis Kelce after he wins the third Super Bowl. She'll be on the field for that.
She'll be on the stage
That's
for the Lombardi
trophy stage,
for the Lombardi Trophy.
Probably that's as close as she's going to get to performing at Super Bowl weekend. There's no way.
I didn't know you guys were. I didn't know you guys were doing the planning for the Super Bowl. You had it all figured out. I didn't
It's
know
done.
you guys.
I've already seen
I
the
didn't know you
script.
guys Twilight as
I've already
stage
seen the
managers.
script. Forget
Fine.
about it.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
Woo. Okay.
She will be there though. You know that.
She will be there. Did you see that Japan had to put that? They had to put like a real comment out, like because they don't want anybody in their country getting shorted a Taylor Swift concert. It's in their interest to keep their people happy with Taylor Swift. All right. So they put out a release that said, by the way, the type of aircraft she's using and the time difference, you're going to easily make it back for the Super Bowl and still be able to perform all of your concerts here in Japan. So please don't short us of anything, Taylor. Did you also see that her lawyers are threatening legal action against anybody who is releasing the, like, basically the
flight tracker.
The flight tracker, right?
Yeah.
If you start releasing the flight tracker screenshots, you're going to be hit with the you're going to be hit with a stalking charge. They said they could maybe bring up. That seems like it's a bit much. Isn't that just
billionaires can sue people whenever they want?
Okay, fine. Well, I'm glad we got to those things. Technically they're there. Technically they're part of the situation. All right. The NFL Blitz. By the way, there is a tiny bit of. Do we dare hit the breaking news sounder? Just because there's some rumors. There's nothing actually going on. But
It's trade deadline day, so hit the buzzer.
Okay.
Push the button.
All right.
Yes.
Apparently there is some quote-unquote framework being discussed. See, that's how we get away with it. Just be like, oh, there's some framework. They built some scaffolding around the possibility of a trade. All right?
Yep.
Please help us understand what some of these names that are involved. And again, these are just rumors. This is not like the Simone Fontecchio trade that is basically just ready to get signed, sealed, and delivered tomorrow. This is something different, but it involves a couple big names for the Utah Jazz. What do we have, JJ?
This is not a Woj bomb yet, so don't get too carried away. But the Utah Jazz, this is according to Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports, who is outstanding. He's excellent. You can trust him. He does a great job. The Utah Jazz, quote, have discussed a framework with the Toronto Raptors on a deal for Bruce Brown. The Jazz would send Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji to the Raptors, and it potentially might also force the Jazz to send a first-round pick to the Raptors, which is
That seems like a lot.
that's what they're looking for Bruce Brown, is they want that first-round pick.
What's Bruce Brown bring to the table?
He's an NBA champion.
Okay.
Key member of the Denver Nuggets NBA championship last year. Other than that, Alex, I can't answer your question because I don't know.
Well, tell me what the numbers are.
I don't even care. I just is it worth giving up Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji? Look,
And
Kelly
then-
Olynyk's contract is expiring, but I'm not moving.
12 points a game? Is that
I'm
what
not
it is?
moving Ochai
No.
and a first-round pick for Bruce Brown.
Ochai, Kelly Olynyk, and a first-round pick for Bruce Brown?
Are the Jazz souring on Ochai? I mean, he hasn't been playing a lot.
All right. Best I can do is a Talon Horton-Tucker and a Kelly Olynyk. That's the best I can do. That's like Pawn Stars. You ever see those memes? It's like, oh, I have a rare gold coin from a Spanish shipwreck. Best I can do is $5.
Do you want to know his salary?
Bruce Brown's
Do you want
salary?
to take a guess?
Yeah, no, he just signed a big deal. That's why he left the Nuggets.
Shoot.
It's
He
only
got paid.
2 years, $23 million, but club option next year
Okay. That's not terrible.
for that guy.
So
For that guy, $23 million for 2 years
look,
is actually
Bruce
like,
Brown is a
No, each
solid
year.
player.
oh, it's 2 years, 23 apiece.
yes.
No, that's
Oh,
that's
that's-
not 23. That's not 2 year 23. That's 2 year
Sorry,
46.
I said 2 each. Sorry.
Now I hate this. Now I hate all of this. All right?
That's a lot of money for somebody who's a nice rotational player, but I'm not giving up. And look, Olynyk's an expire. We know that what's going on there. That's why Kelly Olynyk's mentioned in trade rumors and has been
Yes.
stated as the most likely Jazz player to move.
Yes.
But giving up Ochai Agbaji in a first round pick so you can get Bruce Brown on that contract, what
No thanks.
how does that doesn't make any logical sense to me.
No thanks.
What would the Jazz be doing that for? How does
Again,
that fit with their plan? I don't know. They may have a plan, and they could probably sit here and tell me
Hey.
why, and I would feel like an idiot.
JJ, that's why we aren't the GMs.
But my
bro.
logic is like I don't understand why this is a good match for the Jazz, and why this would make sense to be giving up those assets for a nice rotational player that makes $23 million a year. I don't get it. So I don't know.
Okay. All right.
And I'm not giving up the first round pick. I'm
Fine.
sorry.
Okay. There you go.
I mean, maybe it's like I don't know. They've got first round picks that are going to be late first round picks. Even then, I'm not giving that up.
Okay. There you go. All right. Let's. Ooh. Apparently, Eric Bieniemy, who is no longer going to be part of that Commander staff. Oh yeah, there's the music. Thank you, Jeremy.
We're back on track.
We're back on track. Eric Bieniemy has apparently made a visit to the Chiefs during their playoff run that they've had so far, including sitting in on a meeting prior to the AFC title game. Is Eric Bieniemy going to find himself back at his old stomping grounds, albeit not as the offensive coordinator maybe anymore? But what is the future of Eric Bieniemy coaching wise? Is he really going to go in and find a seat back at the table at his old Chiefs?
I hope so. You can always go back home.
Look, it was a winning combination before, right?
Exactly. I mean, I still think he has a lot of great relationships there. The reason why he went to the Commanders was to prove that he could call the plays as an offensive coordinator, which obviously Andy Reid did in Kansas City.
So I saw this story about Patrick Mahomes, by the way. He said he's okay being a villain.
Come on.
But okay being the villain that wins a lot, okay? I don't know who's really calling him a villain. Here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes is not a villain. I know that people don't want to see Patrick Mahomes be successful because we have some Chiefs haters in this building, in this room even. I myself am not one of them, but you know. But I will say this. Patrick Mahomes, let me tell you who a real villain is, okay? Dylan Brooks. Vernon Maxwell. These are actual villains, okay? These are bad sports guys, all right?
Yeah.
So anybody thinking Patrick Mahomes is going down that road, it's not the same. Because Patrick Mahomes does not want to be Dylan Brooks. It doesn't matter how much winning he's doing. Right? Am I wrong?
Nobody wants to be Dylan Brooks.
Nobody. Dylan Brooks probably hates Dylan
That's
Brooks.
not fun.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not a villain, Patrick Mahomes. Don't go down this road. Now, look, is your brother kind of a weird dude? Yes. Has he had some legal issues? Yes. Has your dad gotten another apparent DUI? I say another because it's been multiple. Yes. Is your wife annoying on social media? Yes. But these are all things that have nothing to do with him. By all accounts, Patrick Mahomes is a freaking Super Bowl champion and a winner, man.
And if you watch the quarterback series on Netflix, you realize he's a great guy.
And don't pitch the.
I can't.
you're a
I'm
villain
not
thing.
buying it.
No,
I'm not buying it, Patrick. You're gonna have to be a bigger jerk.
Now, did he earn Brock Purdy's entire salary in the first 10 minutes of the first quarter of the year? Yes. So, is he a half billionaire? Yes. But that doesn't make him a bad guy. He wins freaking Super Bowls, man.
When somebody wins everything all the time, you're either going to love him or hate him. And that's where we're at with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes
All
and
right.
Travis Kelce.
Let's take a break here. We'll come back. We've got our best and worst next. Stay with us right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Thanks for being with us on the program.
Fun day. A lot of stuff going on.
Tons going on.
Great guests today.
Good to hear from Jay Hill. If you missed any of the conversation with the defensive coordinator from BYU, you can get that. Listen to Locke's breakdown of what the next couple days are going to look like here. What did he say? Wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 deals get made?
2 or 3 deals get done.
He
just casually dropped that in there.
I know. What's Woj doing right now? Just hanging out?
He's charging. Somebody plugged him into the wall, and he's charging for tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, best and worst of the program. I'll go with I'm going to go with this for the old best and worst. First of all, the best. Utah State is officially naming the basketball court after former head coach Stew Morrill. Ceremony is going to be, this weekend when they host Boise State.
That's right.
That's going to be dang cool.
Saturday night.
8 NCAA appearances for Coach Stew Morrill. 7 conference titles, 402 career wins. I will also add an impossible place. He made the Spectrum the impossible place to play that it has been for so many
The
decades.
Spectrum Magic became magic during his run at Utah State. They've had great teams and coaches over the years, but it was just really special and extra difficult. Great players, J.C. Carroll, Spencer Nelson. I could go all day about all the things that happened during that time. I covered a good chunk of it, and I'm glad that I was able to do that and got to know Coach a little bit. And he could be an intimidating presence, but once you got to know him, he was just a really great guy to talk to and work with. I really enjoyed my time covering Utah State while he was the head coach there, and well-deserved honor. It's going to be pretty cool to see Stu earn that honor, and he definitely deserves it.
Worst. So I was actually – this is a follow-up on the playing surface situation.
Oh, yes.
So apparently they assuaged the 49ers. They're giving them a place to practice. The practice field that they're practicing on is just going to be a kind of a regular old high school field, but they found one that they felt like has a better hardness score. NFL surface hardness score.
Which we learned this week is a thing.
Now, the reason the field was so squishy, I know there's a shocker. They installed sod temporarily over AstroTurf. Does it grow in AstroTurf pretty good?
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of fertilizer in there that allows for.
Could you imagine? So what they probably did was, what do? You put down like a layer of plastic?
Well, so I don't know the whole process, but I do remember when Real Madrid came to play at Rice-Eccles Stadium about 15 years ago.
Right.
When David Beckham came.
Mm-hmm.
Real Madrid wouldn't play on artificial surface. So they had to lay down temporary sod on the surface. And I remember there was like 2x4s or boards underneath it. So they'd lay basically some kind of a foundation to lay the sod on.
That was one of the first things that I went to as a reporter.
Yeah.
Was David Beckham versus and Real Madrid versus Real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
We got him at the airport to say, "Of course I listened to Nightside." I still have that cut.
Are you
David
serious?
Beckham saying it.
That's great.
I'm gonna have to bust that thing out. Of course I listen to Nightside. You're like, okay, David. Appreciate it.
I listened on the app.
I know. I use my smart speaker. Right.
Love the show,
All
guys.
right. We'll take the break here. We'll come back. We've got tons more around the corner, so stay right here. Oh, I got to make sure and get your Minky Couture blankets hooked up. You ready for this? Valentine's Day's here. Get the best blanket, the best Valentine's gift ever. Soft and comfy. The Minky Couture blanket is, of course, what everybody loves. So save 50% right now by using the promo code ZONE50 in store and online, minkycouture.com. That's minkycouture.com. All right, we'll come back. We've got more to go. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Wherever you go, we'll tag along. Get podcast